It's just before 3 a.m. on January 22nd, 2016, and 27-year-old Juan Garcia, his wife Janelis, and their 6-year-old son are sitting at the dining table for a very late dinner when a loud knock grabs their attention. The family lives in Unit A of a quad-plex at 306 East Powell Lane in Austin, Texas. The housing structure has 4 separate units, with the Garcias sharing a carport with a neighbor at Unit B. Because of the acoustics of the carport, Juan initially thinks the knocking is at his door, but upon opening it, he sees a white man in a camo baseball cap at the corresponding door at Unit B. The stocky, 5 feet 6 inch tall man waves at Juan to signal that everything is fine. Juan had just seen this guy moments before. He heard the door of Unit B open and close, so he peered through his front window to see the man patting his pockets while heading toward his black pickup truck parked along the fence line several feet away. The Garcias knew this guy to be a visitor this Friday morning. They saw him being flagged down by their Unit B neighbor, 43-year-old Monica Loera, who was on the phone and standing out in the driveway as they were coming home from fast food restaurant Denny's at around 2:40 a.m. Reassured by the man's wave, Juan closes the door, turns around, and gets back to eating. Meanwhile, inside of Unit B, Savannah Skip Grimes is laying on a futon in the living area of the cluttered space. The Vietnam veteran had fallen asleep at around midnight and woke up to a knock at the door. Monica came to apologize and told him it's for her. Savannah next opens his eyes to a loud second series of knocks roughly 5 to 7 minutes later. Monica steps out again and tells him she's going to deal with this guy for good. This, however, will be the final time she answers the door. While it was clear that he left something behind on his initial return, the reason he's back now will be far more contentious, after a gunshot rings out that will unveil a secret life that had been kept tucked away from friends and family for nearly 2 years. From Beehave Docs, this is Point of No Return.
Austin 911, do you need police, fire, or EMS?
Yeah, I need police on 306 East Powell.
306 East Powell, is that a house?
Yes. Yes, on Beehave, please urgent. This guy, I think, just shot my neighbor, and he left in a black truck.
Hold on. Let me get EMS. Let me get EMS.
He left over 35 on a black truck Silverado, like a 2014, 4 doors.
306.
With a hat. I think he was wearing glasses. Now you hear boom, and everybody screaming next door.
Tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know. Somebody went to the door and somebody shot through the door.
Okay.
She's been shot and she's bleeding bad right now.
Cops from Austin PD got to the scene at just after 3 a.m. When they walked into Unit B, Monica was grunting in distress. There were blood droplets on the floor right inside the unkempt home and a larger pool underneath Monica, who was laying in the living room near the futon on which Savannah was sleeping. She had been shot just once, nearly dead center between her collarbones. The shot was close enough that she had stippling or gunpowder tattoo around the wound. An officer was already there rendering aid and applying pressure to the wound. He noticed blood on her mouth, so he turned her over to her right side to ensure she didn't choke on it. Savannah said immediately after she was shot, Monica came over to him holding her chest, blood seeping through her fingers, and shouting, "He shot me, Skip. He shot me." She almost got to him when she fell to the floor. She could only partially respond to an officer question about how old she was, and could not answer who did it. It was just guttural sounds after that. Savannah maintained that he never saw who was at the door. He had gone to sleep at around midnight, didn't know the guy had at one point entered the residence, and couldn't see who he was at the door because his view was obstructed by a dresser and some appliances in the kitchen. He said he heard Monica tell the guy at the door to quit knocking or she'll call the police. All he said he heard after that was the gunshot. CPR was performed until paramedics arrived. As she was being loaded into the back of the ambulance, Officer Matthew Murphy said he could not detect a radial pulse. She was transported to Brackenridge Hospital, where she would be pronounced dead at 3:44 a.m. A canvass of the area yielded no working cameras that evening, but Juan was able to identify the make and year of the black pickup truck.
Black truck Silverado, like a 2014, 4 doors.
Monica occupied the left bedroom of this two-bedroom home, while Eduardo and Brandy, a couple known to her, stayed on the right. Eduardo testified that he only heard the final knock because it was really loud. He said an aggravated Monica came over to his room and told him that it's the same guy and that she'll make sure he leaves for good this time. Eduardo had a monitor in front of his TV that was connected to a couple of cameras, including one above the back door through which the home's tenants and visitors entered and exited. When Monica came to alert him that she was handling the situation, Eduardo said he turned on the monitor, which did not record, and saw the black pickup blocking the carport. Otherwise, he said he didn't see the person or the interaction that led to the fired round. Eduardo and Brandy didn't stick around on the night in question because they weren't supposed to be together. Both were on probation, and Brandy had a warrant out for her arrest. Eduardo handed off the phone to Savannah to make that 911 call before leaving with Brandy. The two would eventually make police statements and testify about the night in question. Juan said he looked out of the front window and saw the pickup truck reverse out of the driveway in a hurry and drive toward East I-35. He was able to identify some articles of clothing the man had on, including a vest over a long-sleeve shirt, jeans, and a baseball cap. He said the man looked to be in his 30s, average build with a little bit of facial hair, but he later failed to pick anyone out of a police lineup. Investigators didn't find shell casings or see any signs of a struggle, not at the front door, in the living room, or in Monica's bedroom, which did otherwise contain the most important pieces of evidence at the outset of the investigation. First, there was Monica's cell phone, which they thought could contain the number tied to the person at the door. And second, on top of the mess of makeup across a vanity cabinet, was a fold-creased paper student ID card from Austin Community College. It stood out because it looked as though it had been placed there recently, a crisp, clean piece of yellow paper atop the mess of foundations, blushes, brushes, and eyeshadows. More importantly, it had a name on it. J. Rowell. It's the day after, Saturday the 23rd of January, and 29-year-old John Casey Rowell is at home in the city of Childress, about a 6-hour drive north from the scene of the shooting. It's been 13 days since his birthday, and 11 days since his wife Cassie delivered their son through C-section, which resulted in complications from an open wound and infection. Cassie had been sick and recovering at home, but was supported from a distance by John Casey, with whom she communicated regularly on both his personal and work phone. John Casey was employed for about 8 months as a surveyor for an oil pipeline project in Georgetown, an approximately 5.5-hour drive south near Austin, a circumstance he said was in part created by the fact that Childress is a really small town with limited employment opportunities. The location of the pipeline project meant he had to live in an RV park most of the time, but he would make the long trip north every other weekend to be with his wife and, as of January 12, 2016, his newborn son as well. Cassie said her husband was attached to his son when he arrived Friday evening, but Cassie, who needed a lot of help with her recovery, did notice something was off. She said he would get frustrated and lose his patience with her, which was unlike him. This behavior extended as far back as that Friday morning, when she received a call from him on his work phone at 3:05 a.m. to tell her that he had lost his wallet and that he needed her to call the bank to cancel his cards. She said he sounded very rushed and angry throughout the conversation. She said she tried questioning him about it, but was told to just do as he said. She hung up to call the bank, but couldn't get a hold of anybody. Not long after, she received another call from him asking if she was successful, but she said no. She tried the bank again and, while on hold, received another call from John Casey basically telling her to forget about it. Adding to the strange behavior, by that Sunday, Cassie said he insisted that they watch the Investigation Discovery Channel, which broadcasts true crime shows. This was weird because he would always make fun of her for watching that stuff, so she said she made it a habit to stop when he came home. By that afternoon, Cassie said John Casey, who was on his phone a lot and was very quiet that weekend, appeared completely detached from his son, noting he looked distressed as he left the house to make the trek back to the RV park. The couple had known each other for about 4 years and got married roughly a year and a half into that relationship in Childress. John Casey was a transplant. He was born in Charleston, South Carolina, grew up and went to school in Myrtle Beach, and migrated wherever obligations took him, such as to West Virginia to be with his daughter, whom he accidentally had out of wedlock with his previous girlfriend. He suspended his enrollment at Francis Marion University in South Carolina to be with his girlfriend and daughter. He ended up going to Cape Fear Community College in Wilmington, North Carolina, where he got his degree in marine technology and worked on a boat. He thereafter went wherever the employment winds blew, from surveying in the Carolinas and underwater salvage and repair on the Mississippi River in Louisiana to land surveying in Georgetown, Texas, where police will greet him a day and a half from now. Detectives had looked into Monica's phone, which logged her last outgoing text at 2:15 a.m. that Friday to a number tied to the Rowells. The search of John Casey's name on the student card brought them to his employer and where he was currently staying, in a trailer parked in Lot 42 at the New Life RV Park in Georgetown. At around 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 26th, Austin PD had established surveillance of the compact container. At this point, they did not have a warrant for John Casey's arrest, so they had to watch as he left the property and returned during the operation. But it wouldn't be long before they got an arrest warrant from a district judge, after which they set up a perimeter around the trailer in preparation for the takedown. 8 to 14 cops in police-marked bulletproof vests flanked the home, as another cop, whose vehicle was fitted with a loudspeaker, ordered the man to get out of the trailer. About 15 minutes after 7:30 p.m., out stepped John Casey Rowell, who complied with orders to get on the ground. He was wearing a baseball cap and had on him 2 pocket knives, a wallet, a can of tobacco, and a belt with a knife sheath. He inquired about their presence. When told he had a warrant for murder, the arresting officer said his demeanor did not change. Nothing put John Casey at the crime scene except for that student card and the phone communication with Monica. In fact, the case was still considered a whodunit 3 days in. Beside not having clear enough surveillance footage to make out a license plate on the black pickup, investigators couldn't find that shell casing, which meant one of 2 things. Either the suspect picked it up, or he used a gun that didn't automatically discharge it. Parked directly in front of the RV were 2 vehicles, one being his work truck and the other, a 2014 black Chevy Silverado 1500 pickup truck. Investigators noted dust accumulation all around the crew cab, which made more apparent the recent removal of a decal on the back windshield. The scraped-off sticker was found in multiple parts in the truck's bed. Pieced together, it revealed that he had been taking a welding class at a local technical college a few minutes from the trailer. Beside that, certain items of interest found inside the truck were a dark-colored vest and a camo baseball cap. And inside the trailer were his cell phones, a laptop, and a tan jacket whose interior pocket contained a small firearm. The Cobra Derringer, which Cassie confirmed was bought a couple of weeks before the incident at a sporting goods shop in Childress, is a pistol popularly used for self-defense. The design, which has endured since the 1800s, holds 2 rounds in an over-under configuration, which are cycled through with a pull of the hammer. One fact about this gun that was pertinent to investigators was that it required a manual ejection of the casing, which would explain why there was none at the scene. It was one relatively tenuous link connecting John Casey to the scene. Otherwise, all they had were his devices. John Casey's laptop was a bust because they could not power it on, and a last resort method to physically extract the memory chip with the data in it failed. His work iPhone was also of no use because it was factory reset by his employer in an ironic twist. They thought it had been stolen while it was in police custody. It therefore seemed like the weight of the investigation was carried by his personal phone, a worn-out Verizon Kyocera Brigadier, a phone known for its ruggedness. It's often what's found on these things that yields the gold, but it's also what's not there that could really galvanize an investigation. Going through the phone yielded very limited call, text, and internet search data for January 2016, except for the 22nd. The data for the day of the incident was deleted.
on in here, sir. The detective is going to speak with you for a few minutes and then get on with just turn here. I'm going to get these. You know what the easiest way, man, is if you could just put one knee up first, like face the chair, and then, yeah, there you go. And can you just hold him up so he doesn't trip? I'm going to get these shackles off your legs.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
My name is Detective Sanchez.
John Casey Rao.
Have a seat.
Guess you want to tell me what this is about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I am. First and foremost, I will tell you that you're under arrest for murder.
Do what?
Yes, sir. Okay, the back of the card says, I have received and understand the warning on the other side of this card. I agree to waive these rights and to make a statement. Do you wish to make a statement? Do you want to continue this interview with me and answer my questions?
I'd like to clear up what's going on.
You're under arrest for the murder of a man named David Loera. Do you know who that is?
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him? Can I show you a picture?
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Okay. Do you recognize the person in that picture?
No, sir.
Not at all?
Mm-mm.
Monica was born David Loera in July 1972. She grew up in a family of 6 kids, the youngest of 3 sisters and 2 brothers, at a home near South Austin Hospital. Her sister, Cynthia, recalls that she liked to play dress-up before her transition. He didn't do normal boy things, Cynthia testified. He always played with dolls. He was just a happy-go-lucky kid as a child. He was always happy. You never saw him upset or angry or anything like that. Cynthia said Monica, whose idol was Madonna and who was loved by her family, felt like a woman trapped in a man's body and started dressing up regularly after she moved out of the house. She said she was still kind of hiding it from their parents but made a full transition by her mid-20s. She started dressing as a woman regularly and doing her hair to match. She couldn't afford to do the surgical change, her sister said, and in the meantime was taking hormones. It's not clear why from the court record, but her legal name was not changed. According to domestic violence organization Stop Abuse for Everyone, or SAFE, legally changing your name and gender marker in Texas is lengthy and costly. But Monica was how she was known all the way up to her death. The toxicology report revealed that she had cocaine, levamisole, citalopram, meth, amphetamine, and THC in her system. The autopsy showed the fired round never exited her body and rested in her upper right back, near the shoulder blade.
When you travel home, do you travel with all these guns that you say you have in your...
Yes, sir, because I go hog hunting sometimes during the week on my boss man's property. He has cattle, and we'll go out there every evening, and he's had hog problems, and then I like to walk the river back home and hunt hogs. Sometimes I take that Derringer, but not very often.
During the week, John, after work, what do you usually do? What's your routine?
I started to take some welding classes at the TC in Williamson County. I just dropped those today because they said I might have to go to Pipeline in Odessa. But I was taking those for about a week, just trying to learn another trade.
Have you taken welding classes anywhere else? How about here in Austin?
I don't think so. I tried to get on here in Austin. I signed up to take them in, I believe, Hutto, and I got all my paperwork submitted, and then when I went to sign up for them, she said they were full because I waited too long or something.
Which school was this?
It was the Hutto branch.
Hutto branch of what?
Of Austin Community College, I believe.
Okay. When you get off of work, do you do any other? What other activities do you do?
Well, I tell you, I was going to Hico. Of course, me and my friends will go out drinking. We normally stay around Georgetown, though.
John Casey said he got off work at 5 or 6 p.m. Thursday night and attended his welding class at Texas State Technical College in Hutto. After that, he met up with 2 of his work buds at a bar called the Bunkhouse in Weir, where they shot some pool and had a couple of drinks before hopping into his black pickup and traveling south to the Wild West Bar in Cedar Park, just north of Austin, to drink some more, soak in the live music, and dance. He said this was a spot he frequented regularly as a customer. He said they stayed there right up near closing time before going to a McDonald's in downtown Georgetown. He said he then dropped off his friends at their homes between 2:30 and 3 a.m. before heading back to his RV immediately after.
So after you dropped them off, you were by yourself?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do after that, sir?
I went to the RV and went to sleep.
And then did you stay there? You didn't leave after that?
No, sir.
Didn't come back into Austin for any reason?
No, sir.
No?
I stayed there till the next morning.
Anybody drop by your place over there and say, hey, let's go to Austin?
No, sir.
John Casey maintained that he had never been to Austin with his buddies or by himself. The last time he said he'd been to the capital was with his girlfriend before they got married.
There's a reason why you're under arrest, you know that, right?
Well, yes, sir. I think there's a
Can you even think of why?
No, sir. With all due respect, I think you got the wrong person.
Really?
Yes, sir.
John Casey may not have known what investigators knew. If that's the case, then he probably didn't have the foresight to see what they were going to uncover months from now. Manuel Fuentes was an investigator in the Travis County District Attorney's Office who was tasked with getting as much information as possible from John Casey's phone. Heavy emphasis on the word possible. The first bout with the worn-out phone early in the investigation was its charging port. It was finicky in that the charger had to be held in a certain position to get it to charge. This spelled trouble because that was the port used to get a data extraction. After that, he did an extraction and retrieved the internet search, text, and call history, but there was very little of that and a whole lot of nothing with that gaping hole on the 22nd. Investigator Fuentes decided against further traditional forensic extraction methods and left to attend a 3-week computer hacking course with the United States Secret Service in Hoover, Alabama. Upon his return, he decided on a last resort tactic he learned in Atlanta in 2014. Called the chip-off method, the expert would extract the phone's flash memory chip from the circuit board. To do that, extreme heat would traditionally be used. The problem some investigators were finding at the time, according to investigator Fuentes, was that these chips were often covered with a bonding compound called epoxy, and the use of extreme heat to remove the adhesive from the board would sometimes end up damaging the chip and compromising the data inside. Though it's not clear if heat was the issue, the chip-off method failed when investigator Fuentes used it on John Casey's laptop, so this was a high-stakes operation. If not, for a new method he had learned more recently that provided an alternative to extreme heat, called the polishing method. It will be the first time he'll use it, and he'll go 1 for 1. The polishing tool arrived a month later, and for hours, he polished until the chip was set free without damage. And though it took another several failed attempts to get an extraction going, there it was, on a Saturday, the emergence of binary code. 0s and 1s, not much to the untrained, but loaded with a possible treasure trove of information that could break the case wide open. Automated software was used to parse the data. Investigator Fuentes used 2 separate extraction tools, each having success in pulling certain types of data. One did well on device-to-device communications, and the other excelled at social media and web searches. After months of painstaking work, the operation was a success. The extracted data focused on a week in January, including the day of the 22nd. The shocking content on that phone will pin John Casey in a corner and turn his family life upside down.
Do you have any addictions?
No, sir. I probably drink too much.
Okay.
But
You like beer?
yes, sir. I don't drink whiskey or nothing.
I like beer.
No.
Yeah. But I mean, do you have any drug addictions?
No, sir.
No?
I don't
You
use
smoke
drugs.
weed?
No, sir.
Don't use any kind of drugs?
No,
Illegal
sir.
drugs?
I get random drug tests at my work,
Okay.
so I don't do drugs.
John Casey grew up in a stable and loving Christian household in Myrtle Beach. According to his parents, he did what little boys do in that part of the country: hunt, fish, target shoot, play ball, and go to church every Sunday. He followed what the Rowells called the family plan, Despite the oopsies on the way to getting his college degree, that part where he had a daughter out of wedlock, he ended up graduating and getting his first job on a treasure hunting ship. His family described him as a behaving, compassionate, and non-violent young man who didn't get in trouble and always sought and obtained employment, which meant leaving the nest, a situation his mom said distressed the family. With the arrival of his son on the 12th of January and his wife's subsequent illness, his responsibilities quickly increased. And then, 2 weeks later, before his mother and father could follow through on visiting their new grandson, he's in the middle of a homicide investigation, centered on the morning he claimed he dropped his friends off and drove to his RV for the rest of the morning.
Did you have your cell phone, your 940 number, with you that Thursday night? When
I
you guys
normally
went out?
keep it in the truck and use it for music.
For music?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you use it to communicate with anyone?
I might have called my wife on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think anybody else. I use it sometimes to contact ladies I flirt with, but
Okay, tell me about that, man.
it goes no further than that.
Well, tell me about that, John.
Every now and then I'll push the limits and get a phone number from a girl
Mm-hmm.
and text her, but guilty conscience takes over, and then just leave it alone, delete the number.
Do you use your 940 personal cell phone for that?
Yes, sir.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You ever worried that your wife is going to find out?
We talked about it, and after my son was born, I stopped all that.
Oh, okay, so she found out about it?
Yeah, once or twice, yes, sir.
You got in trouble, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me about these. How do you get a hold of these ladies?
Pick them up at the bar, or not pick them up, but get their number at the bar.
Mm-hmm. How about online?
I've done online before, where you go and order you an escort,
Do you?
but that's been a while since I've done any of that.
Tell me about those guys. Which ones?
That's been when I used to live in Louisiana. But he turned me on to it. And you go on backpage.com and I can pretty much order you a escort.
Prostitute?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, you can tell me, man.
I
mean, I'm a cop. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I know all about this stuff. You
Right.
know. So, and I know you're probably just shy.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, maybe a little embarrassed, but don't be.
I'm nervous as heck.
Well, I know you're nervous, but it's important that we be honest.
Yes, sir.
All
I
right.
understand.
I mean, this is kind of serious.
Well, yes, sir. I know.
So tell me more about this Backpage stuff. You know, when did you start getting into it? And
Oh, that's maybe my early 20s.
okay. And so you go there to find these prostitutes, and then you go. Have you ever had sex with them?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. And is this strictly women, or is this transgender also?
No,
Do you have a certain preference?
strictly women?
Strictly.
Yeah, I prefer white women.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have, and I'm going to be straight up with you, do you have any sexual deviations that, you know, that you're struggling with, having problems with, trying to get control of? You
No,
know?
sir. Mm-mm.
No? So you just like to have sex with a prostitute every now and then?
I used to, yes, sir.
Used to?
Mm.
Okay, and when did this stop?
I struggled with it up till recently. I mean, I struggle a lot, but I haven't acted on it. Gosh, since maybe before Christmas, early December was the last time I acted on it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, you know, I'll contact them and get almost to the point where I'm ready to leave, to head there, and I'll just shut it down and not show up.
Did you go into Backpage this past Thursday night, early Friday morning?
I might have, yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about that.
If I went in there, I'd probably called or texted a few of the girls and then shut it down.
You didn't absolutely shut it down, did you?
What's that?
I think you took it a little farther than you usually do, didn't you?
Well, I'd text them and then right before the point where I get ready to leave, I'd either say, screw this, I'm going to bed, it ain't worth it.
How many did you talk to that night?
I don't know, maybe 2 or 3.
2 or 3?
Mm-hmm.
All of them females?
I hope so.
Okay, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? You hope so?
Well, I mean, I hope I was talking to old girls.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you get to see their pictures of the profiles? I mean, do you know what you're going to get?
Sometimes, but very rarely do they look like their pictures.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So you've been disappointed, I guess?
Yes, sir.
You and your wife have been married how long?
About 2 years, 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Had you known your wife longer than that?
I've known her for about 4 years now, I guess.
Okay. So during this time, these 4 years, before you got married,
Mm-hmm.
During that period before you got married to your wife, were you still seeing prostitutes on Backpage?
Occasionally, yes, sir.
Occasionally? Okay. How about after you got married?
Occasionally, that's been a struggle in our marriage.
Okay. Has she been trying to get you to stop doing that?
Yes, sir.
So she's aware of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, do you have like that app on your phone, or you were just going into the internet?
Just Google.
Googling it? Okay.
According to that web search history pulled by investigator Fuentes months after this interrogation, which was not played in court, John Casey's first log into Backpage was at 2:05 a.m. that Friday morning. Contrary to what he told the detective about not being in Austin, he was specifically searching out that city's sex workers. Seconds later, he's on Monica's page. Fantasy girl of your dreams. People who knew Monica and who were familiar with the transgender community said it was difficult getting a regular job, especially because they lived on the fringes of a typically conservative society. In other words, this was how Monica made ends meet. To be a trans person here, you have to make a job for yourself, Christy, a friend of Monica's, said. The chances of getting hired at a job is very small. To be blunt, you're competing against a bunch of people who are not trans for the same job, and Austin is already hard to find a job. The world would rather hire somebody who looks or is considered more normal in their eyes. According to SAFE, transgender individuals are subject to higher rates of employment discrimination, especially when they lack the means to change their identification to reflect their gender identity.
It was probably while we were at Wild West and then driving around back to Georgetown, just halfway drunk on there looking at women and bullshitting them, texting them,
Okay.
or calling them.
Do you remember any of their names?
No.
What they called themselves?
No, not at all.
Anyone look like this?
No, none that I saw.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, but just maybe not necessarily like that. I mean, the hair is kind of this
Maybe
way.
not like that unless there's a lot of makeup. And two, that's a dude, so
Okay. You don't mess with dudes?
no.
You don't mess with transgender?
No, sir.
You know? Strictly women?
Yes, sir.
Because we have the benefit of the extract, we can see the timeline of communications between John Casey and Monica. We know that he had been communicating with 2 sex workers, the other named Josie. John Casey said, from his experience, you would need to first call the worker so she could gauge your seriousness, and only after that would you be able to text her. So, at 2:09 a.m., he gets on the phone with Josie for 38 seconds. Moments later, he talks to Monica for about 2.5 minutes. During that time, Josie sends a text, but John Casey appears fully committed to Monica. At 2:14 a.m., Monica sends him a provocative pic with a text saying, 306 East Powell Lane. Call me when you turn on Powell Lane so I can come out and meet you. Also, text me back and let me know how long it takes you to get here, sweetheart. 1 minute later, she sends another pic of herself. He calls her at 2:19 a.m. and they talk for about 20 seconds. He texts her at 2:20 a.m. telling her he's 22 minutes out. She calls him at 2:25 a.m. and the conversation lasts for 49 seconds. A tower dump shows he's traveling south toward Austin as he's making these communications. John Casey then makes one final call to Monica at 2:37 a.m. that lasts nearly 4.5 minutes. His personal phone does not make another communication until it receives a call about 4 hours later. But his business phone is still active. At 3:05 a.m., he uses it to make that call to Cassie, instructing her to cancel his bank cards. Cassie's phone makes a call to Wells Fargo at 3:28 a.m. There's some back and forth between the two as he's traveling to his trailer. He'll arrive back home at around 3:30 a.m.
Has it ever happened to you? Where you thought you were getting a girl and it turned out to be a guy?
Yeah, I've been fooled before in Bourbon Street, New Orleans.
Bourbon?
Yes, sir.
So tell me about that. Was that funny, or did that get you upset, or what happened?
Oh, we were just down there drinking and went and talked to this girl, and she said, let's go to the hotel room. And I got to looking. I said, I don't think you're a girl. I said, I'm not into this.
Okay.
I walked away.
When was that?
Oh, that was 4 or 5 years ago.
All right. So when you're talking to these 2 or 3, you said, and then you guys shut this place down, and then you drop your boys off. Now you're by yourself. Did you decide to hook up with one?
No, sir.
This one particular one, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that one particular one that you kept talking to and texting with?
No, I didn't keep talking or texting.
No?
It was just, to be honest with you, I don't remember, but it was something to the effect of, you know, where you at and blah, 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 and be over there in such and such time, and then...
Did she tell you where to meet her?
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you.
Was there a text message that she sent to you?
Yes, sir.
Did you delete this message?
Yes, sir.
You did? You don't have it on your cell phone now?
No, sir.
I mean, you and your wife are good, right?
Yes, sir.
You have a recent fight or anything, any reason why you were mad at your wife, and
No, sir.
and you decided, man, I need to make myself feel better?
No, sir. And she's trying to straighten me up.
You know that cell records will tell a lot about your activities,
Right.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know that, right, John?
Yes, sir.
I don't have to tell you that. I
Right.
know you know that. Your cell records will tell me, verify these phone calls that you made during that time period. After you dropped them off, you didn't change your mind and come back into Austin because you decided you were going to get you some.
No, sir.
Take one of these girls up on her offer.
Mm-mm.
Meet her where she told you to meet her.
No, sir.
Drive there in your truck.
No, sir.
Drive your truck into where she lived.
Mm-mm.
You got out and met her. People saw you. Described you and your truck. You went into her home.
No, sir.
You guys got into a little spat about something. You left something there. And I'll tell you, John, you left something there that brought us to you. What would that be?
I don't know. I wasn't.
No, I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay.
You're going to tell me that you weren't there. I'm going to tell you, yes, you were there. Because we know you were there. Tell me what happened after you went inside.
I didn't go in there with all due respect, sir. I think I'd like a lawyer.
John Casey was thereafter taken into custody for the murder of Monica Loera because he did, in fact, make it to her place that morning. There will be no more denying that reality after his phone records are exposed. What will be in contention is why and how everything went so wrong. John Casey took the stand at his November 2017 trial. He testified that after dropping off his friends that morning, he deviated from habit. Instead of going to bed, He hopped on Backpage and filtered out the women by photos and cost. At a rate of $100, on the lower end of what he has historically spent on escorts, he settles on Monica Loera and arranges the meet. With the benefit of phone records and eyewitnesses seeing Monica on the phone waving him in, it can be assumed that the nearly 4.5-minute call at 2:37 a.m. was around the time the man of the hour was arriving at the driveway of Monica's quad-plex. He parks his truck on the left behind the silver Chevy along the fence line, gets out, and is escorted into Unit B by Monica, her eyes speckled with glitter under what John Casey said was a pink baseball cap. John Casey said he was spooked by the sketchy neighborhood, what he claims was a pitch-dark interior that smelled of dog feces and the barks of the resident pit bulls. This was a departure from the hotels in which he said he engaged the handful of escorts in the past. They walk down a short hallway and into Monica's room on the left. They discuss what services he wants. She lays out her hand for the cash, and she tells him to remove his vest and pants and get on the bed. He claims about a minute or two after the start of oral, she abruptly starts shouting at him about why he didn't bring a condom, but he can't explain in his story how she knew he didn't have one. He said he apologized and offered to get some. He gets up, puts on his pants, and is escorted out of the house, but as he gets closer to his truck, he realizes that he forgot his vest, which he said held his car keys and phone. He goes back to the door and knocks. She told me, well, he forgot his jacket, and I decided that it took him too long to come back. I'm going to send him away, Savannah recalls what Monica told him. Monica opens a door, gives him the jacket, and then shuts the door. Despite the tense interaction, John Casey said he still intended to get condoms. He gets into his truck and realizes when he sits that he doesn't have his wallet, which he said he always kept in his right back pocket. He said the wallet contained family photos and Social Security, ID, and bank cards. He said he wasn't sure at the time if it just fell out when he dropped his pants or if he'd been robbed. The money he gave Monica was not in his wallet. Minutes later, he pulls out of the parking space along the fence line and drives forward to where his grill guard is right up against the air conditioning unit and the truck's body is blocking the carport. He grabs his Derringer, which was in the center console, puts it in his right vest pocket, gets out, walks around the back of the truck, through the carport, and knocks on Monica's door again. She doesn't answer, so he knocks more aggressively. He hears the door behind him open and waves to the neighbor, signaling that everything is fine. It was not.
I opened the door and he said hi because he was knocking. I guess the neighbor stole something from him or something and didn't want to give it back.
John Casey said he was standing right up next to the appliance just outside the door when Monica cracked it open just a bit and allegedly started yelling at him to leave. He claims he told her he just wanted his money and wallet back, to which she allegedly said she wasn't giving him anything. "If you don't leave, I'm going to call the police," she reportedly said. He claims he said that's fine, but then she got more aggressive. He alleged she threatened to bash his head and windshield with a bat if he didn't leave. This was the type of situation for which he said he needed his Derringer. A possible confrontation if he came back without condoms, other people who could be hostile inside the house, and the resident pit bulls, which he said he was scared of. The Cobra Derringer has two safety mechanisms, a standard safety bar, and what's called the half-cock position, where the hammer sits securely in the middle. This position was how John Casey claims he had it in when he knocked on Monica's door, which he alleged she swung open violently just before the shot was fired. The .38 caliber jacketed hollow-point projectile, which is designed to expand in the target, was found lodged near Monica's shoulder blade, about 4 centimeters lower than the entrance wound. That meant the round traveled downward in her body. This fact complicated the matter because of the circumstances. John Casey was 5 feet 6 inches tall, and Monica was 5 feet 10 inches tall standing inside the home, whose floor was raised 4 inches relative to the carport where the defendant was standing. In other words, Monica had 8 inches on John Casey. The defense argued he acted in self-defense when Monica allegedly burst through the outward opening door. They claimed because she lunged at him, her body was in a sort of crouched position that explained the bullet path. John Casey testified that she had one hand on the doorknob after it was pushed open, but he couldn't see her other hand due to the alleged darkness. That's despite witness statements noting that the carport's light was on. This became central to his case, that the claimed threat to beat him with a bat put in his mind that she could have been holding that weapon in her other hand. With no time and nowhere to run, and him being sandwiched between the appliance and the door and his truck blocking the carport, he claimed to have taken a half step back and pulled out the gun that required about 10 pounds of force on the trigger to fire, uncommonly heavy for a handgun. Using the diameter of Monica's entrance wound as a reference, test firings of the same gun with the same ammo, the .38 caliber Special Plus P, showed that the end of the Derringer's muzzle was approximately a foot away from Monica when it was fired. He said she continued to yell after the shot and then receded into the darkness of the apartment, after which he said he ran to his truck and left. While John Casey admits his responsibility in Monica's death, he doesn't really say he shot her deliberately. He claims he doesn't remember consciously pulling the trigger and that the gun just went off. Therein lay the second defense, that this particular handgun was susceptible to the phenomenon known as the false half-cock, which John Casey claims he did not know about until his defense team brought in an expert witness to explain. Without getting too deep in the weeds, the phenomenon is when the hammer isn't actually mechanically in the half-cock position. The hammer will sit at a precipice or a perch, not fully in its safety notch, and a jarring event could technically propel it forward toward the firing pin. The problem, the defense said, was that John Casey's Derringer was carelessly not tested for that defect. John Casey argued for an acquittal on self-defense, accidental death, and criminal negligence. Each defense mounted on the back of a claim that he'd gone back to a hostile environment to retrieve property he believed he left behind, or that was stolen from him. There's the perception of reality in the heat of the moment, and then there's clarity after the fact. The perception that he'd been robbed was cleared up when he realized that his wallet was in fact in his possession when the shot was fired. He claimed he had no idea until after the fact that Monica put his wallet in an inner pocket he said he didn't know his new vest had. But state lawyers were more skeptical about his motives for returning to the door. His claim that Monica just started randomly grilling him about not having protection made no sense to them. They believed it was more likely that it started with something he said in the room that perhaps revealed his true self and made her uncomfortable and nervous. Maybe she kept the student card after accidentally dropping it when she put his wallet in his vest, perhaps realizing that something like this could happen. The actions he immediately took after that were an effort to conceal what the prosecution called a dirty little secret from his wife and his parents. 10 days after his baby is born, he didn't want her to know, didn't want his parents to know, the state said in its rebuttal argument. He didn't want all those fine church people to know, because that's a whole different person than the man he purports to be. And that was an understatement. After getting about an hour of sleep, John Casey said he got up at around 5 a.m. to prepare for work that Friday. He said he had about 2 or 3 hours of oil pipeline duties before packing his bags and leaving for Childress to be with his wife and child. When he got home, he didn't tell his wife about shooting an escort because then he would have to explain why. To be caught with a prostitute was admittedly the primary concern for John Casey, who, on top of continuing an activity he claimed to stop after his son's birth, was facing a Class B misdemeanor charge. He said he deleted all the escort texts, phone calls, and internet searches because he didn't want his wife or his niece and nephews, who used his phone as a gaming device, to find out about these activities. In his defense, he used several words to describe what he claimed was his state of mind during and after the incident: scared, frightened, and afraid. He conveyed that a lot of his decisions after the fact were influenced by this condition, including deleting his internet searches. So if not for the work of investigator Fuentes, the true extent of what John Casey himself called a very gradual slide in his behavior may have never surfaced. At 12:56 p.m. that Friday, 9 hours after the incident, he logs into an adult website called Pornhub around the time he was traveling back to Childress to see his wife and kid. Hours later, at 7:27 p.m. and around the time he gets back to Childress, he goes to news site Fox 7 Austin and learns that Monica was killed. He claimed the reason he didn't call the police immediately after the incident was because he didn't know he shot anyone. 20 minutes later, he's on the forums of expertlaw.com seeking legal help. He then does a series of search inquiries that he claims was done out of fear. 5 reasons people get away with murder and approximately how many people get away with murder each year in the United States. No search for manslaughter, none related to self-defense, just getting away with murder. He checks the Austin government website for news, the Austin Police Department for updates, the Facebook pages of news sites for comments, and learns that Austin PD is searching for a suspect. There's a 2-hour gap in activity on the phone, presumably, and one could say hopefully, to tend to family matters, but he recedes to his phone at around 10:30 p.m. searching for news about the shooting, which he picks right back up the next morning. The claim that he planned to call the police after getting as much time as he could with his family that weekend was undermined by the fact that he didn't call them at all, and perhaps by the fact that his sole focus wasn't his family. At 4:11 p.m. that Saturday, he makes a Google search for the Austin Backpage, but he's looking at some of the pages on the transsexual side of the site for about 3 minutes and then goes back to looking up news stories about the shooting. Later that afternoon, he's looking for welding jobs in Altus, Oklahoma, and Amarillo, Texas. Then he's back to looking into news of the shooting later that night and the next morning. At 3:40 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, on his way back to the RV park, he makes another inquiry on Backpage, this time for transsexual escorts in the city of Abilene, which is about halfway between Childress and Georgetown. He is then back on the Austin side of the site, looking through the pages for the same types of escorts. Minutes later, he makes a Backpage inquiry and is looking through the pages of transsexual escorts in the city of Killeen, which is not far off the path toward Georgetown. The Backpage inquiries cease at just before 4 p.m. Later that night, he is back on the news sites. Over the next 2 days, Monday the 25th and Tuesday the 26th, he is looking for jobs in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Palestine, Texas, Tyler, Texas, Lufkin, Texas, groundskeeper, sheet metal roofer, yard driver, trucker, builder, golf course maintainer, anything, anywhere but Austin. His last inquiry is logged at 6:58 p.m. on the 26th, about an hour before he's arrested for the murder of Monica Loera. If the searches weren't clear enough, John Casey was not avoiding escorts like Monica. He was actively searching them out. To get to Monica's page, in fact, he had to select that category of escort first.
You don't mess with transgender?
No, sir.
You know? Strictly women?
Yes, sir.
John Casey Rowell said he developed this specific interest and struggled with it for about 2 years, during which time he had a handful of these transsexual encounters.
They didn't call you in the morning.
The man who was given every advantage growing up but could not reform himself even after the birth of his son said he felt horrible for the pain he inflicted on Monica and her family and regrets going over to the home on East Powell Lane that morning. Because you can't argue criminal negligence when you create risk by bringing a gun to a volatile situation, the defense agreed to accept a charge of manslaughter, which was challenged by the state on the basis that every step he took after he engaged the Derringer was intentional. He consciously took off the safety bar, carried it to a stranger's house, pulled it out when the dispute escalated, and raised it toward Monica. Prosecutors were also incredulous about the false half-cock theory, arguing if the gun was going to go off accidentally, it was more likely to occur in any of the steps leading up to the shooting. To argue that it only went off when he took a half step back and pointed it at her is absurd, they added. Ultimately, Monica did not lunge at him, prosecutors argued. In reality, they said, she was trying to reach for the door to close it, hence why the bullet took a downward trajectory in her body. In any case, the law does not allow for a claim of self-defense on a verbal threat alone, so it wasn't enough that Monica allegedly threatened to bash his head with a bat the police never found, or with any weapon witnesses said they did not see her hold. Any reasonableness to his defense was further defeated by the fact he was violating the law when he paid an escort for sin, concealed a weapon without a permit, and was right back on Backpage looking for the same kinds of escorts that same weekend, suggesting he was not sorry for what he did and did not fear for his life. On November 6, 2017, John Casey Rowell was convicted of murder. State lawyers asked the jury to impose deterrence by giving him 45 years, concerned about the freeing of a man they said was dishonest and who grew up around guns, owned an assortment of them, and proudly draped the wall of his trailer with a Confederate flag that they argued was a symbol of intolerance. John Casey testified that he's a tolerant man, isn't racist, and loves everybody, regardless of color or creed. His parents, sister, and a churchgoer testified that they never saw him get angry, misbehave in school, get in trouble with the law, and saw someone who wanted to contribute to society through his education and employment. A day after his conviction, John Casey was sentenced by a jury to 20 years. He is scheduled for release in January 2036. This evening was the conclusion of a metamorphosis in behavior and demeanor that is continuing for a year or 2 years, so testified to by the defendant, the defense said in its closing. He himself said it. Alcohol, prostitution, late nights, the predictable end. But a predictable end that was much greater than anybody could have conceived of. I believe when we make choices in our life, those choices can start to lead us down a wrong road, John Casey said during the punishment phase. For myself, it was drinking and prostitutes. And before you know it, you're down the rabbit hole, and in one instant, your life is changed, as well as all the people that are connected to you. And in this whole world, our actions, I've learned, affect so much more than just ourselves. I'm truly sorry for all the pain and hurt. Cassie swiftly divorced John Casey and remarried by the time of her testimony on behalf of the prosecution. John Casey's younger sister, a mental health therapist, testified that he confided in her about his transsexual escort problem and said he needed to talk to somebody about it, though it's not clear from her testimony when this conversation occurred. Monica Loera's murder was the first of a transgender woman in 2016, according to SAFE. I'll know Monica, but the rest of the world is just going to know her as the first transgender murder of 2016. And it happened here in Austin, said Christy, whose late friend showed her the safe spaces in the area for people like her. Monica's oldest sister said during the punishment hearing that losing Monica has been really difficult. The family would spend Thanksgiving together, she said, and while she didn't see Monica a whole lot the past few years, she was always there on holidays. My parents, and especially my mom, she doesn't really show a lot of emotion, and I think she's really held a lot in, she said. We didn't bury Monica, we cremated her, and she sits on one of my dressers at my house. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me narrate the story, which is based on the primary sources. Special thanks to the reporters who bring light to these cases, to the record staff for their assistance, and to you guys for engaging in the subject matter. I hope you're well, you're doing acts of charity, and I'll see you next time. Good night.